everyone, it's Liz Jansen. I'm here today speaking with Carla King. Carla is an author, she's a traveler, a writer, and she's a trailblazer when it comes to solo motorcycle travel and self-publishing. We're here today to talk about living life according to your own compass. And Carla's somebody that, in my opinion, personifies that. She's traveled all over, solo travel on her motorcycle. She's been all around North America. She has been in Europe, Africa, India, China, and she runs self-publishing boot camps. So she's the author of American Borders, self-publishing boot camp book, and lots of other material. So she's also a friend and somebody that I admire very much. So welcome, Carla. It's great to see you.
Liz, it's great to talk to you. Hi.
Thank you. And we're talking to Carla in San Diego.
Yes, my new home in San Diego.
That's great.
I defected.
You defected.
From the North California to Southern California.
You did. That's right. That's quite a culture change.
Yes, it is.
It seems you've always been one to travel on your own compass. Mm-hmm. Has life always been like that for you?
You told me you were going to ask me this question, and I had to think about it for a long time, and I think the answer is yes, because I was born an introvert, and so I wasn't much affected in school or in society by outside forces, peer pressure, all of that. So I went out by myself and drew and wrote and played and found a motorcycle when I was 14, which was my escape vehicle, right? To escape through the tobacco fields and the woods to go be by myself, so I didn't have to do chores at home or deal with my sister or my brothers or my parents. And so I think being an introvert, you naturally navigate by your own compass more than possibly social people do, more extroverted people do. I read, I think, a Myers-Briggs personality test. They pointed out that introverts get their energy from being alone,
yes,
and extroverts get their energy from being with others.
Yes.
And so I love being with others, but really I need to go inside myself and get that energy back in order to be with others. People don't think of me as an introvert because I'm so public, but I really, that's where I get my energy.
You've traveled to remote areas for years by yourself. Yeah. How did you know how to get started? How did you know what to do?
I didn't know what to do. I only went on my first travel by myself because my husband kept canceling our vacations for 4 years, and I just got so pissed off. I said, well, I'm going with or without you. So I got on the plane, and I got one of the two motorcycles I had rented for us in Italy, and went straight to France and sulked a lot. And then after a couple of weeks, I went, oh, all right. Well, this thing happened where I camped next to between a German family and a French family, and there was an English family nearby, and they were all having beer, and they invited me over, and I had drinks, and we ate together, and I went, wow, this is kind of fun. So that night, I opened myself to meeting people on the road, whereas before I had just been closed and sort of in my own little sulky, oh, poor me self, my marriage is over, which it was. Which was a big deal.
Sure. And
so I needed a couple, 3 weeks to deal with that, and then things started happening, and I realized that it was for the better. And so that was a hard lesson, and a lesson that I wished I had learned many years before, because I would have been happier taking off right after school. Instead of trying to wait for other people to go along with me. It just was sort of unheard of. So I think many people don't, especially in the first world, in the developed world, never break out because we're so comfortable here. We've got a very cush life. Even those of us who think we don't have any money, we have more money than 95% of the people in the world. We're more free than 95, maybe more, 99% of the people in the world who don't have a penny in their pocket or barely a roof to live under. And the thing is that you only realize that when you get out and travel. But we're so, happy and complacent with our, even if you have a checking account, that's crazy for 90% of the world. They don't even know what that is. So I think we just sit here and look at the National Geographic Channel and go, wow, that's really cool. In fact, I've heard people relating stories in very animated manners. This was a very sad thing. This woman was relating a story about this adventure, and it was a very exciting story, and I thought she was talking about her adventure, and I was super, super interested, and then it came out that she was talking about an episode on an Adventure National Geographic television show. And I thought, wow, she really lived that. She really, really got excited about it, and it was her. And I wish she had just done something like that herself. I wish it had inspired her to do it herself.
Perhaps it did. Maybe not just right away. Maybe not too. Maybe not.
Maybe.
Yeah. You also started self-publishing before self-publishing was even a word in the 1990s. What got you to try that?
Well, I was a technical writer in Silicon Valley, and so basically I knew how to, print and publish a book, put a cover on it, and give it to the people who needed it. It wasn't any big mystery. And so when I went to live in Nice, it was another sort of accident. I was an avid mountain biker, and I was looking for a guide to mountain biking in the Nice, Alpes Maritimes area. And there wasn't one in English, and there wasn't even one in French, which I could have read, okay. I had studied French and knew it well enough. And so just being the sort of geeky tech writer, I started writing down the routes that I would take. And I just went, you know what, I'm going to do this myself. And I picked the 10 best routes. They were little day trips. And I had my little mileage counter on my bicycle. And so I'd say go 0.2 kilometers to the ruined castle and turn right on the dirt road, et cetera, et cetera. And I wrote the book, and when I came home, I queried a bunch of different publishers about it, and they said it was just too small of an area. And I said, okay, and so I just did it, because I figured it would be of use to somebody else. And it was so easy. I hired this guy to do maps for me. It wasn't very expensive at all, and a cover. And then I went back to France, and I sold them. I took boxes of books back to France, and I sold them to the tourist offices and to the English language bookstores and to the bicycle shops, and I completely made my money back. It was great.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So you were doing, you started solo traveling, you started solo motorcycle traveling, self-publishing before, not very many people were doing it. So most people would say that took a lot of courage to do that, to have, to be able to risk, your personal, whether it's, financial or your reputation or whatever it is. Most people wouldn't have done that. What made you do it?
Well, that first time I was mad. I was just mad at my husband, and I went anyway. And so that just showed me that it could be done, and it also showed me that I didn't need to be afraid of people. I guess when I came back home, I, packed up and moved, and we had owned a couple of houses, and I rented my house, and I found that it was just too much of a hassle dealing with renters and having to re-roof, and there was a flood, and it just felt burdensome. It felt like it was tying me down. And when I sold that house, I just felt so free. And ever since then, I've been a committed renter. I just pack up and go whenever I want and put my stuff in storage. I don't have a lot of stuff. I have a storage unit's worth of stuff that's easily moved in half a day. And so when I want to go, I can just put everything in storage and, do that. And it just feels, I don't know, I don't, it just feels light. I feel light. And I felt heavy before when I had stuff. And I don't anymore. So I like feeling light, and I'm not afraid of people anymore because I found that, and I really never was. I found that people are so interested in someone who's traveling, and especially if you're not traveling as just a tourist. If you're associated with a symbol, a powerful symbol, as you know, is a motorcycle. And a woman by herself rides up on the motorcycle. And I also had this with the bicycle. And I've had it backpacking as well. They see you first as a person who's doing a sport or a thing, not just a tourist who's
Sure.
spending money, who's there to be taken advantage of and sell things to. And they're suddenly very interested in who you are and where you come from. And that's an opening into their lives, and it's they want to know about your culture, where you come from. Suddenly, you become an ambassador and a news source. And actually, in Africa, I described myself as when I would enter a village, it would be like the circus had come to town. I'd bicycle in. They'd never seen an American, a white person. Some of the kids would run away screaming, thinking I was the white boogeyman that their mothers were threatening them with if they were bad. I actually had these poor children sometimes running, screaming away because that was the manifestation of their biggest horror. The white boogeyman had come. And but then I would unroll my thermarest and it would self-inflate, and that was, ooh, magic, and I had the magic fire maker thing. I mean, these were remote villages. So I literally was a magician. I was a strange creature from outer space that did magical things with the things on my bicycle. And they didn't know where America was. They had no television, no nothing. And it was just a joy. It was just a joy to see their joy.
Yeah.
And they gave me so much hospitality, and they were so generous. And all over the world I've experienced that, but not in developing countries, but in more undeveloped countries.
So that experience, when you were left alone that first one, when your marriage ended, I mean, you could have responded in a couple of different ways, but that's really how you handled that. And it just has opened up so much for you, hasn't it? It changed your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you had the personal, I guess the strength going into that already. I mean, just from the way you were, what you talked about. But you still could have handled it in a number of different ways.
I could have, but now that you mention it, I had skills. Okay, so I was raised in the country by parents who were do-it-yourselfers. And my mom is an artist and a carpenter, and she does a bunch of crafty stuff, and we always did that when we were children. And when I got older, my dad, I'm the oldest child, and I would always be the one roped in to help him fix the brakes on the tractor, or back the trailer to get the hay bales, and I killed chickens and rabbits for dinner. When I saw the motorcycle in the garage and decided I wanted to use it, my dad said, if you can fix it, you can use it. And so we set about fixing it up, and he didn't just do it for me. I learned about carburetors and the chain and, balancing wheels. I mean, we always knew how to change tires, my sister and I. So I did have skills, so I was never worried about the bicycle or the motorcycle, about breaking down and not being able to fix it, or at least kind of figure out how to fix it. And I love traveling on simple motorcycles, especially in developing countries where, you have no dealer network. Here in America, it's easy, you just get a nice motorcycle and under warranty, and pretty much you can get it towed to the nearest dealer. It's kind of a no-brainer. It's very luxurious, but I love breaking down, though. I have to say, I had a trip around in Italy, and I had already been to I think India, China, yeah, China, and I'd broken down everywhere and gotten dragged to little villages and slept on couches of peasants and then had banquets in my honor and then gotten to know the families and the mechanics' families. And in Italy, I just rode around on this really nice Moto Guzzi and camped, and the bike worked fine, and nothing really happened. It was a really beautiful trip, but I didn't really get to know anybody.
That's funny, and so it really has opened up. I mean, it's just been a rich experience for you, and continues to be.
It does. Yeah, it does.
So you're well known as a writer and a moto journalist, but also in writing circles for your writing. You speak often at writing conferences. You initiate self-publishing boot camps. And so you're very active and in all of these areas and do well at them. How do you balance it all? Different interests.
Oh, it's such a juggling act. Right now, I'm perpetually trying to finish my book on China, but now I've moved, and that's taken precedence. And then I went up to Tahoe for the Adventure Motorcycle Rendezvous preview trip, so I'm writing an article about that and about Schubert helmets and about this and that. So the money making things take precedence over the things that aren't making money yet. Self-publishing boot camp is always there. I have a couple of clients. I'm helping them edit and develop their books and get them published. And I'm looking forward to giving some in-person self-publishing boot camps here in San Diego. So I'm trying to figure out, what venue to go to, whether it's a yacht club or a bookstore, and just getting to know people here, but also like we're doing today, doing virtual ones. So I do feel like I almost have too much in the air right now, and I need to, now that I'm moved, I can settle down and create a priority list. But I feel a little discombobulated now. But I've always had, as a writer, you have, journalistic projects and books and interviews, and so it's always been like that for me. Yeah.
You've made a lot of changes in your life in the last year, which I don't think if you had looked at yourself last year and looked at yourself now, a year later, that you would have, is that right? You wouldn't have dreamt that you would be where you are?
No, down here in San Diego. Well, what happened is that my landlord, my crazy landlord, I lived at this wonderful place in Point Richmond, California for 5 years, and I loved it there. It was absolutely perfect. This tiny little cottage looking over the San Francisco Bay, and she just got so wacky that I had to move, and so I moved temporarily to a friend's. I feel like that move, it just made me open up to possibilities. Just her being such a problem, which is again another situation like my marriage was.
I was
right?
just thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Were you? Yeah. It's like you're forced out of your comfort zone. And here I was thinking, oh, I live in a 350 square foot cottage. I'm free. I wasn't. I was very emotionally, psychically, psychologically planted, rooted there. So she uproots me, and suddenly I was open to anything, any situation, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll explore living in Southern California, where the motorcycle industry is more so, and scuba diving, the things that I like to do and write about, and so I opened myself up to that possibility, and I accidentally opened myself up to love as well.
Cool.
I didn't know. I mean, when you open yourself up, you open yourself up, and I realized that had been closed down. I haven't had a permanent, a serious relationship in a very long time. It's very interesting. It's hard. I had a group of 12 adventure travel writing women We had a writers group called the Wild Writing Women. We even did a book together. Two of us were married. Two of us had long-term relationships. Were in long-term relationships. That one of them wasn't me. But we all lamented, it's very difficult for strong, independent, traveling women to find relationships that really work. So I had about given up on that, and voila, guess what happened?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So here I am.
Yeah.
It's in San Diego with 11 motorcycles in my life.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it feels really, really good. But I feel like I'm embarking on a huge adventure.
You
Because
always
I
are, yeah.
have for a long time.
But I'm sure it must feel different. But it's just again like a whole different level, like that you're at now, that you've risen to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's great. I mean, Jonathan is also an adventurer, and I think that's we met at an adventure event, and he, boats and scuba dives and motorcycles as well. So, sharing all that, I've always segmented my life away from my relationships, that part of my life. So this is an interesting um, new adventure, sharing that. And it's felt very good and very, very, very natural.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
It was meant
Yeah.
to, it was time. So people look at you and your adventures and everything you're doing, and they say, "Oh, I wish I could do that," or I wish I had the courage, but it's too late for me. How many times have you heard, "I wish I had the courage," or "It's too late," or "You're so brave"?
Oh, yeah.
Lots. But they think it's too late, or they're insecure financially. How will I manage? How will I? What happens? What's the personal risk? It's just too late for me. What do you say to them?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I am financially insecure a lot. As a freelancer, I get a pile of money and then it dwindles and then I have to do it again. Um, I I like security, but not at the expense of the freedom that I have. And I don't want to, we all know that, nobody says on their deathbed, I wish I had worked harder to be more secure and make more money. They always say, I wish I'd quit my job and gone to Tahiti like I wanted to. Or,
That's right.
And it's hard. It's really hard. But I'll tell you, this is what hits home to people. I mean, we all are forced to do very drastic things in our life. We get born, we have to go to our first day in kindergarten and our first day in high school and college. We have to leave home and go to college. Some of us are just, get kicked out of the house and have to work, or we get married, we get divorced, we have job interviews. All these things are very, very, very difficult. All these steps. We move, we buy a house, we sell a house. It's not that far-fetched to say that giving up some of that is not the same. It's not the same. It's the same effort. It's the same step as doing all these things that we take for granted. But we've been told over and over and over again, when you graduate from college, when you get married, when you have your first child, when you. Nobody says, oh, when you take off on a motorcycle to China, oh, when you go bicycling in Africa, oh, when you climb Mount Everest, oh, when we're not told that over and over and over again since when we were born. But imagine if we were. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Good point. Good point. Yeah.
I like to tell my nieces and nephews that, when you grow up and ride a motorcycle through Europe, or when you grow up and hike in the Himalayas,
Yeah. Because it isn't. People don't open their minds to that, right? Because you're on a set trajectory. And, that's the way it is. And that's where you feel like you're safe, but we're really not, when I say safe, I mean, secure and nothing's going to change and everything's just going to be fine. That's not even realistic.
Exactly. And I think it also helps because, living in the San Francisco Bay Area, I surrounded myself with people who were different, in the multimedia, CD-ROM, technical industry, people from different cultures, people who were in different kinds of relationships and living in warehouses, and I lived in Asia. And I then started purposely seeking out people who were doing the things that I wanted to do. The wild riding women came up. I mean, these women have been everywhere. I think a lot of it has to do with the people that you hang out with. And I have, sometimes sadly cut out people from my life who are saying, I mean, I'm looking at Tijuana right now. I'm literally looking at Mexico. And so many people, I say, I'm going to ride my motorcycle through Baja. They're like, no, oh, it's so dangerous. I hear that so many times. I don't want to talk to them anymore. And you know what, Liz? I don't. Okay? That's enough. I don't need people to tell me that that's bad and dangerous and I shouldn't do it. I want to hang out with people who've done it, who encourage me to do it, to encourage me to go put the motorcycle on a sailboat with scuba diving gear and do the whole shebang all at once.
And hell with it, I'm doing it all. That's right.
Yeah. So I do think a lot of it has to do with the people that you hang out with. And that might be a good first step, is to find a group of friends who have done it or who want to do it and who don't send the negatives out to you.
Yeah. Even though when people, I teach motorcycle, as you know, and you see people that are learning to ride too, and that's just one example when they've taught themselves something that's out of their comfort zone, especially as an adult, as a later age, and they realize they can do something else. It just opens up, a different world for people sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah,
I've never really sailed, and here I am. I want to, start sailing, and I also want to take flying lessons. I'd love to learn how to fly. So, I'm going to do it. I don't think there's a time when you need to stop.
No, that was my next question. Is it ever too late?
No, I don't think so. I mean, just the short time that I've been here, there's a lot of yachties here, people who own yachts and who've retired and done a lot of adventurous things. And they have retired at 65 and bought a yacht and gone sailing to Tahiti and, Panama, etc. I mean, they're doing all kinds of new things. They're learning languages. They're, learning how to fix these very complicated boats. They got in a little bit over their heads, some of them, and they're enjoying life so much more. I don't see myself ever stopping and settling down.
Yeah, settle down, Carla. No, that sentence doesn't make sense at all.
Do you think you will? I don't think.
No, I don't. In fact, my tendency is to be going the opposite way. So,
yeah,
settle down less, because I find the older I get, the less and less material things and safety and structure and all of that mean to me. It's the experiences that are important.
Yeah, people say, well, what am I going to do with my stuff in my house?
Who cares?
Sell it! For the educated first world person, I don't think money and material wealth has much to do at all with whether you can or can't do something. I mean, you can easily trade that up. I mean, society tells us we're trading down. We're selling our house and all our material possessions, and we're trading down to go on a 4-year motorcycle around the world motorcycle journey or sailing trip, or to live on a beach in Baja and fish, or with the money that we've made, whatever we want to do. But I think it's really trading up. That's what I think.
And that's a great way to end. Thanks so much, Carla.
Thank you, Liz.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'll mention also your books, American Borders and the Self-Publishing Boot Camp. There are others too, so we'll make sure to put links to them. Okay. So thanks, Carla. I'll let you enjoy that beautiful sunshine and warm and that view of Tijuana. Thank you.
Come visit.
I will. Okay.
Thanks, Liz.